this virus called COVID. But to our seniors, we are still devoted. We miss seeing you face to face. For now, our videos take the place. Until together again, our Worcester Senior Center love is well noted. This was a limerick written by our co-worker, Jennifer Lynch. Hello, and welcome back to the Worcester Senior Center Stay Connected programming on Channel 192. My name is Suki Lapin, and I am the program coordinator at the Worcester Senior Center. In honor of St. Patrick's Day, the Worcester Senior Center welcomes back New England Jazz Enrichment Foundation, Stomp O'Holler, the McCrights, and a few more surprises. Here to introduce the terrific band, Stomp O'Holler, is the talented cable service staffer, Beck Lenvey. Take it away, Beck.
Have you ever been to the traditional Irish Ceilidh or Irish session held at the Worcester Hibernian Cultural Center at Fiddler's Green? Members of Stomp and Holler, or Stomp O'Holler this time, bring you The Session, featuring Worcester area musicians. Tap, sing, and dance along to your Celtic favorites, like Whiskey in the Jar, Molly Malone, and Black Velvet Band, as these musicians perform together for the first time, bringing you the luck of the Irish and the history of the Emerald Isle. Happy St. Patrick's Day!
Hi everyone, I'm Steve Barassa with the Worcester Jazz Festival and New England Jazz Enrichment Foundation and the band Stomp and Holler. You might recognize me from the Christmas video that we hope you all enjoyed doing. And we were asked again to put together another program for you, and this one is in honor of St. Patty's Day. So we're very honored to be part of this. We've got some great musicians for you. But let me tell you how this came about. So when Suki Lapin first approached us to produce an Irish program, we were going to create a pub sing-along. So, you go to the pub, you're drinking, you're singing along. Everybody loves to sing along. And then we had the idea of doing, well, what about a traditional Irish session? And that was like, all right, how do we get 30 people together? Which during these times we can't do that. So what we ended up doing was we combined the two. So what you're going to see today is a combination pub sing-along and Irish session. And we've got some great musicians who will introduce before each tune for you. And we hope you really enjoy it. Make sure you sing along to the songs you know. And since you're at home, no one's stopping you from dancing on the tables, tapping your feet, pounding your head against the wall, and raising your Guinness up in the air, or your Jameson. So, and here is our Irish session.
Dip Banbridge town in the county down one morning last July. From the moor greens and the sweet Colleen, she smiled as she passed me by. She looked so sweet from her to their feet to the sheen of her nut brown hair. Such a coaxing elf, I shook myself to see what was really there. From Bantry Bay and the Dairy Quay, and from Galway to Dublin town, no maid I seen like the fair Colleen I met in the county down. She onward sped, I shook my head, I looked with a feeling red. And she says that I, the passerby, is the maid with the nut brown hair. She smiled at me and says to he, that's the gem of Ireland's crown. That's Rosie McCann from the banks of the Banff, star of the county down. From Bantry Bay and the Derrick Hay, from Galway to Dublin town. No maid I've seen like the fair Colleen I met in the county down. At the harvest fair, surely there, dressed in my Sunday clothes, with my shoes shone bright and my hat cocked right, and a smile for my nut brown rose. No pipe on smoke, no horse on yoke, till the plow turns rust-colored brown. A smiling bride by my own fireside, the star of the county down. From Bantry Bay and the Derrick Hay, from Galway to Dublin town. No maid I've seen like the fair Colleen I met in the county down. From Bantry Bay and the Derrick Hay, from Galway to Dublin town. No maid I've seen like the fair Colleen that I met in the county down. From Bantry Bay and the Derrick Hay, from Galway to Dublin town. No maid I've seen like the fair Colleen that I met in the county down. Thank you so much.
So you might be wondering, what exactly is a session? A session is a casual and sometimes impromptu gathering of musicians playing traditional Irish music, and it usually takes place in a pub, but has also been known to take place on street corners or even in somebody's kitchen. In fact, a session can take place anywhere that Irish musicians are gathered. We're blessed to have our session at Fiddler's Green, longtime host to Worcester's own Irish Session.
So, I hear McDonald's is prepared for the St. Patty's holiday. They got the McWhiskey coming out.
Is it green? I'll put the old McWhiskey in my Shamrock Shake. And, I don't know. I've been to Shamrock, Texas. It's a little different. All right, another sing along. This one's called Whiskey in the Jar. 1, 2, 3, 4. As I was going over the Cork and Kerry mountains, I met with Captain Farrell and his money he was counting. I first produced me pistol and then produced my rapier. Said, stand, oh, deliver, I am the bold deceiver. Mushering, dumba-da. Back for my daddy-o, hey, back for my daddy-o, there's whiskey in the jar. I counted out me money and it made a pretty penny. I put it in me pocket and I brought it home to Jenny. And she sighed and she swore that she never would save me. But the devil take the women, how you know she treats me easy. Mushering, dum-a-doo, dum-a-da. Back for my daddy-o, back for my daddy-o, there's whiskey in the jar. If anyone could aim me, it's my brother in the army. I think that he is stationed in Cork or in Killarney. And if they come and join me, we'll go roving in Kilkenny. I swear that he'll be better than me darling Spartan Jenny. Mushering, dum-a-doo, dum-a-da. Whack for my daddy-o. Whack for my daddy-o. There's whiskey in the jar. Mushering, dum-a-doo, dum-a-da. Whack for my daddy-o. Whack for my daddy-o. There's whiskey in the jar. Oh. Hey! Oh. Thank you so very much.
All right, so I'm back. And honestly, it was just a couple of seconds for me. I don't know how long it was for you. But we want to give a special thanks. We're very blessed to be able to be performing our program today at the Hibernian Cultural Center inside Fiddler's Green. So if you've ever been here, you know what an amazing place this is. This is a fantastic room for music. And you'll see some of that come out in the playing that we do. And we have a couple of the founders that are going to come up here and talk to you about this place and the organization as well. And we're looking forward to a time when you all can, that's the country, sorry, it's not Irish, but when you all can come back in and enjoy the music. We want to thank the Hibernian Cultural Center, the City of Worcester, the Worcester Veterans Square Project, Century Home Care, Emerald Meat, and Callahan, Fay, and Caswell Funeral Home, as well as the New England Jazz Enrichment Foundation for making this possible today. Also a special shout out to Worcester Police Officer Sean Lovely, who actually connected us here and gave us the opportunity to make this happen.
There was a young lady named Rose who had a large wart on her nose. When she had it removed, her appearance improved, but her glasses slipped down to her toes. How about another one? I'll get one more for you. There once was a man from Nantucket who kept all his cash in a bucket.
No, not that one. Oh.
But his daughter, named Nan, ran away with a man, and as for the bucket, Nantucket. All right, I'll save a few for later.
Oh, I get it. Man took it.
Nantucket.
It is a song with a local flavor to it. This song was made, it's called Boston Rose. It was actually written by an old friend of mine named Liam Riley, who I had the pleasure of working with back in the 90s. And he was from a band called Bagatelle, but he wrote songs for other artists. And this one was recorded and made pretty famous by the Wolf Tones. It's called Boston Rose. And yes, this is dedicated to Liam. He actually passed away about a month and a half ago, right after the New Year. So Boston Rose by the late, great Liam Riley. Now the autumn leaves are falling, and the tourists have all gone, and the children, they have all gone back to school. And my life is as it was before. I work 8 hours a day, but the company's still making all the rules. There's a girl in Massachusetts, south of Boston town, she said, and her lovely face is with me all the day. Sure, I met her down in Old Tralee, golden hair upon her head. And I took her heart, and she stole mine away. Goodbye, my Boston beauty. Farewell, my Boston rose. I'll wait for you, I'll think of you. No threat to you I'll pose. Goodbye, my Boston beauty. Farewell, my Boston rose. I wish that you were here, but I know that's the way life goes. There's a song we sang all summer in the bars of Dublin town. I can hear it on the factory radio. And the feeling I remember when I hear that simple tune makes me wonder if it really happened so. For we laughed and loved together till the summer days were gone, and she had to fly across the ocean wide. Goodbye, my Boston beauty, until we meet again. I will keep the fire burning deep inside. Goodbye, my Boston beauty. Farewell, my Boston rose. I'll wait for you, I'll think of you. No threat to you I'll pose. Goodbye, my Boston beauty. Farewell, my Boston rose. I wish that you were here, but I know that's the way life goes. And sometimes when I'm drinking and my friends have gathered round, well, just for fun, someone rings up your name. Well, I smile with the rest of them, but I can't hear a sound, for I love you, but to them it's all the same. And nights when I'm alone, my love, you come into my mind, and visions flash upon that inward eye. So I watch the moon there up above, and I leave this place behind, and I call to you as I go sailing by. Goodbye, my Boston beauty. Farewell, my Boston rose. I'll wait for you, I'll think of you. No threat to you I'll pause. Goodbye, my Boston beauty. Farewell, my Boston rose. I wish that you were here, but I know that's the way life goes. I wish that you were here, so farewell, my Boston rose. Thank you so very much. Beautiful work. Oh, Worcester Rose. Oh, wow. All right. Dan and Joe on the fiddles. Thank you so much. Rose on the bass, and a song about the Rose of Churley Festival by my friend Liam Riley and the Wolf Tones.
I want to introduce a dear friend who I've only known for 3 or 4 years once we moved down to Worcester. And he's just someone that I have to call for everything musical. Most of you may know him, or many of you may know him. You can hear him on WCUW 91.3 FM. If you have ever been to SUNY's Pub, he's bartending there on a regular basis. He's done a lot of the folk shows. He's got a couple of bands. He guested on our Christmas special. That hopefully you saw that. What's your I was going to say your tube band. No, the jug band. The Wormtown Mugwumps.
Only organic jug band.
That's right. And he's been at Nick's a lot. You'll see him on Saturdays at Nick's with Rick Levine. So I'd like to introduce Mr. Donald Prang. He's a multi-instrumentalist performing today. He's playing guitar, banjo. He was going to play some Bowron, but we'll tell you about the special guest that took over his spot. That's right. And he sang a couple of great tunes for you, which I know you'll love. So, Don, your connection to Worcester, and what's your history with St. Patty's Day?
Well, I've lived in Worcester for like 10 years, but when I was in college 40 years ago, my girlfriend was from Worcester, so we'd come out here to get our laundry done and get free food. And she would show me the sights, such as they were at the time in the 80s, I guess. So, and St. Patrick's Day, well, Glenn Gibbs and I used to play here under the name Donna Glenn. We played here a bunch of times, up to about 4 years ago. And then we'd always play Parade Day at like places like SUNY's and stuff. But other than that, St. Patrick's Day is always just, well, I used to celebrate every St. Patrick's Day at Patrick Nee's house down in South Boston when I was younger. That's where we used to hang out. So it was mostly going to the parade, and there would be house sessions. The doors would be open on the streets, and you'd walk with your instrument, and the doors open. You just walk in and sit and play for a little while, and then go to the next house and stuff like that. It was always fun. But yeah.
Mr. Donald Prang, and we'll be looking forward to his version of Fields of Athenry.
I heard a young voice calling, Michael, they are taking you away, for you stole Javelin's corn, so the young might see the morn. Now the prison ship lies waiting in the bay. Though lie the where once we watched the free birds fly. Our love was on the wing, we were young with songs to sing. Now it's lonely round the fields of Athenry, by a lonely prison wall I heard a young man calling. Nothing matters, Mary, when you're free. Against the famine and the crown, I read well, they drag me down. Now you must raise our child with dignity. Low lie the fields of Athenry, where once we watched the free birds fly.
Our love was on the wing, we were young with songs to sing. Now it's lonely round the fields of Avonmouth. Harbor wall, she watched the last star falling as the prison ship it sailed into the sky. Now she hopes and waits and prays for her love at Botany Bay. Oh, it's lonely round the fields of Avonmouth. And ride where once we watched the free birds fly. Our love was on the wing, we were young with songs to sing. Now it's lonely round the fields of Avonmouth. Oh, lie the fields of Avonmouth, where once we watched the young free birds fly. Our love was on the wing, we were young with songs to sing. Now it's lonely round the fields of Avonmouth.
So one of the great things about St. Patrick's Day is you don't have to be Irish on St. Patrick's Day. It's a great time to celebrate one of the great ethnicities, I guess is that the right word to use, that helped build this great country. And the Irish have done so much in celebrating the music. If you listen to Irish music, you can hear a lot of the folk music from the various, from French, from Polish, from to klezmer. You can hear and the joy of Irish music, just it lifts everybody up. Our next guest is one of the featured performers today, Mr. David O'Leib. And I've known David O'Leib for many years, but I didn't know him as David O'Leib until I saw him St. Patrick's Day at the Warren Tavern in Charlestown. So Dave, tell us about your Irish roots, your what you've been doing, what your connection is to Irish music. And just in case you don't recognize him with the mask on, he did the Adam Sandler parts during our Christmas special. So there you go.
And that's a little closer to my heritage, I guess, Adam Sandler. But I have a very long history with Irish music and playing in pubs and in the Irish scene in the traditional sense and the Celtic rock sense. For many years, I was part of the band called Shoot the Moon, which was led by a singer named Joe O'Mara from Cork City, Ireland. And also I was playing with traditional bands like Joe Glynn and the Irish Mist and some other Patrick Hoy with Brogue. And this all started when I was still in college in the late 80s. So I got to say, somehow I think I've become Irish through osmosis over the 30-plus years I've been doing this. And I finally broke out on my own and started doing St. Patrick's Day shows and Warren Tavern. I was playing gigs there. They caught notice and they said, "You do a lot of Irish stuff. Why don't you play here on St. Patrick's Day?" And so I did. And many other places. But I love the culture. I love the music. And I've, especially when I was in college, I dated a girl who was from Ireland, so that helped immerse into the culture pretty quickly. So, and hanging out in a lot of the Irish neighborhoods in New York City near where I'm from. So that definitely was, it's the best way to become part of it, is to really submerge yourself in the culture and learn all the music on the traditional side and the contemporary side.
David O'Leib, ladies and gentlemen. So we have many great musicians we're playing with today. And one of those is our one of two fiddlers. Please welcome Mr. Danny Villani. He's wearing the green. Hi, folks. Danny, you'll notice, will be playing some fine melodies later on, or maybe you've already played it by the time this gets edited in. I don't know, but that's right. So, mandolin. He'll be playing mandolin, and he'll be singing. So, Danny, yes, it's not Mick Villani. No. Mick. So, you've done a lot of Irish shows. Fiddle is in demand. It's a fine instrument. Tell us about your connection to Worcester and Irish.
Thank you, sir. Ladies and gentlemen, yes, I have played a few Irish shows. And I was introduced to Irish music back when I was working at Intel. We had a volunteer band. We used to play for the Hudson seniors, and every year we'd do an Irish luncheon. And all the seniors would come. They'd have the traditional Irish lunch, and we would play the Irish songs. And that's how I got involved. I'm looking at you, man. So my connection to Worcester, well, I've played with a duo called Ed and Dave for a while, about 10 years, and we had a full band, and we played at Greendale's and just about every month for 10 years. And we did a couple of Irish songs, but it was mostly folky type stuff. And then more recently, I played with a band called Boogie Chillin'. We play at Vincent's. It was on a Tuesday night. We stopped doing that for a while back in the COVID, but we were doing duos through the fall outside, and we're hoping to get back to that pretty soon.
There was an old man with a beard who said, "It's just as I feared. 2 owls and a hen, 4 larks and a wren have all built their nests in my beard." I know. I wish I could get funnier, but let me do one more. This one you might like. Okay. I'm going to take my mask off for it, so it's better with seeing the mouth. A barber who lived in Batavia was known for his fearless behavior. When a giant brown bear took a seat in the chair, said the barber, "No way will I shave ya."
That was unbearable.
Oh.
Yeah, but on the plus side, none of the audience left, so.
Hey, don't touch that dial.
This is a tune called The Green Fields to America, which is another way of talking about the ocean. Written on a ship sailing across the ocean from Ireland to America. So, back there in the cheap seats, if you want to dance in your seats, that's cool.
Actually, hold on. We got a special guest we could bring on board to play with you.
The jig is up.
So we're blessed to have two prime time fiddlers today. And here's our second one, Mr. Joe Kelly Kessler. And Joe, tell us about your Irish experience, what you do, because you look like a natural up there. If you guys yell loud enough, I know it's video, but when you start seeing him play, yell loud enough. If he hears you, he'll get up and dance.
It's true. I have a lot of fun playing the fiddle. It was a lot of fun to be here with Dan playing a couple of fiddles. More fiddles, the better. Thanks so much, Steve and Worcester, for having us.
So what's your background?
Well, I played fiddle all growing up and spent some time in North Carolina and learned a bunch of Irish tunes and got hired at the Black Rose in Boston to play. That's where I met my wife. She's an Irish girl. I'm not Irish at all.
I was going to say.
So
you're Irish by association?
Irish by fiddle. That's right.
What's your favorite song to play?
I guess the last one we just played, The Drunken Sailor, of course.
I love that.
Right?
Yeah.
It's so much fun.
Yeah. Thanks, Joe, and we're glad you could be here.
So much fun to be here. Thanks so much.
There once was a woman named Rose who told jokes at all of the shows. When no one laughed, it caused quite a gap, so she had to escape on her toes.
So that's the introduction for our next guest and featured musician. You may recognize her from those awful Christmas jokes at the Christmas special. They weren't awful. They were just okay. So, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Mary Rose Villani and MRV.
That's right, MRV.
So, do you want to lead us with a limerick before we go into your questions?
Sure. Why don't I just do one more? Why don't I terrorize you with one more limerick? Am I going to hold this and do it?
Okay.
Sure. Let's see. What should I do? All right. There once were two cats of Kilkenny. Each thought there was one cat too many. So they fought paw to paw, and they scratched claw to claw, till instead of two cats, there weren't any.
All right. So, Mary Rose. You're playing bass and singing backup vocals today, which she does quite ably. You know? Tell us about your Irish experiences, your connection to Worcester, and you've actually played here at Fiddler's Green before, right?
I've played here a couple times, actually. Yep. So let's see. I actually played here a couple years ago in a jazz band. That was a great experience. And
Was it Irish jazz?
it was not Irish jazz, which... you know, Fiddler Greens, they're great. They're very open to all kinds of music. And we were lucky enough to come here. I think I did this with the Worcester Jump Joy and Music program. I played bass, backup bass for them while they had all the musicians come up. See, when you're a bass player, you play wherever because bass players are always needed everywhere. It's a great job. My Irish experience was, again, with Dan several years ago. We started doing volunteering to play with the Intel band, playing Irish music for the Hudson Seniors. And since then, I've done a couple other gigs. Again, like a bass player, people call you up and say, hey, we need a bass player, you know, and you show up. It's kind of a cool thing. I'm really only here for the limericks, but don't tell anyone. No. I also play bass. So, yeah, and then in Worcester, actually I play in a band called Cross Tracks, which is, the origins are bluegrass, but we cross the tracks and do all kinds of music. We do a few Irish tunes, some green bluegrass, and we do, you know, some bluesy stuff. We do all kinds of stuff, but our origin is bluegrass, so that's kind of where we start, and we cross the tracks on that. So, yeah.
Me too.
And Dan too.
Do you have one more limerick for us?
Sure. If you guys can tolerate one more limerick, I'll get you one more. Let's see. One more. What should we do? Yeah. Yeah, right. Okay. Let's see. I'm really determined and keen to start giving this house a spring clean. I will do it, I say. Yes, I'll do it today. Well, I'll do it tomorrow, I mean.
When I go home, the boys won't leave the girls alone. Pull my hair, stole my comb, and that's alright till I get home. She is handsome, she is pretty, she is the belle from Belfast City. She is the curtain 1, 2, 3. Please would you tell me who is she? Oh, Albert Mooney says he loves her. All the boys are fighting for her. Knocking the door and ringing the bell, saying my true love as well. When she comes out white as snow, rings on her finger and bells on her toes. Old Johnny Morrison says he'll die if he don't catch a fella with a roving eye. Tell me, Mom, when I go home, the boys won't leave the girls alone. Pull my hair and stole my comb, but that's alright till I get home. She is handsome, she is pretty, she is the belle from Belfast City. She is a curtain 1, 2, 3. Please would you tell me who is she? Let the rain and the wind and the hail blow high, snow come traveling through the sky. She's as sweet as apple pie, she'll get her own lad by and by. When she gets a lad of her own, she won't tell them all till she comes home. Let them all come as they will, cause Albert Mooney she loves still. Tell me, Ma, when I go home, the boys won't leave the girls alone. Pulled my hair and stole my comb, that's alright till I go home. She is handsome, she is pretty. She is the belle from Boston City. She is a curtain, 1, 2, 3. Please don't tell me. Let's go. Tell me, Ma, when I go home, the boys won't leave the girls alone. Pulled my hair and stole my comb, and that's alright, I like it home. She is handsome, she is pretty. She is the belle from Boston City. She is a curtain, 1, 2, 3. Please tell me, who is she? She is handsome, she is pretty. She is the belle from Belfast City. She is the curtain, 1, 2, 3. Please don't you tell me, who is she? Thank you so very much. Thank you, Worcester. All right. Excellent. A lovely round of applause for our special guest on percussion over here on the bottom.
We're going to bring up the sound man, Mr. Brian Callahan. Yeah, you come on up, Brian. So this time, we decided to bring a real professional sound man. And he's a professional Irishman, too. His name is really Callahan. So hopefully what you hear out there sounds really good. And if my lips are moving and you can't hear anything, it's because he muted me. So, but I met him a long time ago. I used to work at Wurlitzer in Boston back in 81, 82. No, you're the 90s, 92. Yeah. He's a drummer. At least he used to be. Yeah. And, but Mr. Brian Callahan. So, Marathon Sound Systems?
Marathon Sound Systems.
Marathon Sound Systems. Tell us a little about your Irish roots and...
Irish roots, so I'm half Irish, half Italian. I met Steve back in the 90s, like he was saying, at EU Wurlitzer's. We were a music retailer, and we were both in the back office. Had a lot of great times together. And then just kind of reconnected a couple of years ago at a show I was doing. He was playing at. I wasn't there, but my brother and my 19-year-old son were there. And my 19-year-old son looked just like I did back when we worked together. And he, once he saw my brother, he figured it out, and that's how we reconnected. So.
And Brian actually did the sound for last year's 2019's Worcester Jazz Festival. Yep. So we're very lucky he was available, and he's a professional. So thank you, Brian. We're glad you're here. We'll hope to see you again. Yeah.
Well, her eyes, they shone like a diamond. I think she was queen of the land. And her hair hung over her shoulders, tied up with a black velvet band. As I was walking down Broadway, not intending to stay very long, I met with a frolicsome damsel as she came tripping along. A watch she pulled out of her pocket and slipped it right into my hand. On the very first day that I met her, I fell for a black velvet band. Her eyes, they shone like a diamond, and you think she was queen of the land. And her hair hung over her shoulders, tied up with a black velvet band. Before judge and jury next morning, well, the both of us did appear, and a gentleman claimed his jury, and the case against us was clear. 7 long years transportation, right down to Van Diemen's Land. Far away from my friends and relations, I fell for the Black Velvet Band. Well, her eyes, they shone like a diamond. Come on! You think she was queen of the land. And her hair hung over her shoulders, tied up with a black velvet band. One more time. Her eyes, they shone like a diamond. You think she was queen of the land. And her hair hung over her shoulders, tied up with a black velvet. Oh, little fiddle. Dublin's fair city, where the girls are so pretty, I first laid my eyes on sweet Molly Malone. And of course wheels a barrow through the streets broad and narrow, crying cockles and mussels, alive, alive, oh, alive, alive, oh, alive, alive, oh, crying cockles and mussels, alive, alive, oh. She was the fishmonger, and sure 'twas no wonder, so were her father and mothers before. Now her ghost wheels the barrow through the streets broad and narrow, flying cockles and mussels, alive, alive, oh, alive, alive, oh, alive, alive, oh, flying cockles and mussels, alive, alive, oh. Alive, alive, oh, alive, alive, oh, flying cockles and mussels, alive, alive, oh. She died of a fever, no one could relieve her. That was the end of sweet Molly Malone. Now her ghost wheels a barrow through the streets broad and narrow, flying cockles and mussels, alive, alive, oh, alive, alive, oh, alive, alive, oh, flying cockles and mussels, alive, alive, oh, alive, alive, oh, alive, alive, oh, flying cockles and mussels, alive, alive, oh. And it's no, nay, never. No, nay, never, no more will I play the wild rover. Ha! No, never, no more. Well, I've been a wild rover for many's a year, and I've spent all me money on whiskey and beer. And now I'm returning with gold and great skull, and I never will play the wild rover no more. And it's no, nay, never. No, nay, never, no more will I play the wild rover. No, never, no more. I went into an alehouse I used to frequent, and I told the barmaiden me money was spent. I asked her for credit, she answered me nay. No way, says custom like yours I can have any day. And it's no, nay, never. No, nay, never, no more will I play the wild rover. No, never, no more. Well, I took from me pocket 10 sovereigns bright, and the barmaiden's eyes opened wide with delight. And she said, I have whiskeys and the wine's all the best. And the words that I spoke were merely in jest, and it's no, nay, never. No, nay, never, no more. Will I pray the wild rover. No, never, no more. I'll go home to me parents and confess what I've done. And I'll ask them to pardon their prodigal son. And if they caress me as oft times before, sure I never will play the wild rover no more. And it's no, nay, never. No, nay, never, no more will I play the wild rover. No, never, no more. Let's go ahead. Never, no more. One more time, and it's no, nay, never. No, nay, never, no more. Will I pray the wild rover? No, never, no more. No, nay, never.
So we want to give a shout out to our Worcester Cable Services crew, Jessica and BQ. BQ is, you've probably already seen BQ. She's doing an introduction. So we like to acknowledge everybody because you know what? I don't care what you thought about Hillary Clinton. It does take a village. All of us together makes all the good stuff happen. So we are going to bring up two very special guests. We're going to let them talk. So again, I'm Steve with the New England Jazz Enrichment Foundation, Worcester Jazz Festival, and Stomp and Holler. And we've been very lucky, blessed to be asked to be part of your concert series and produce all these great shows that you've looked at over the past year. Thank you to Suki Lapin and the Worcester Senior Center. We want to thank the City of Worcester, the Hibernian Cultural Center, the Worcester Veterans Square Project, Century Home Care, Emerald Meat, and Callahan, Fay, and Caswell Funeral Home. So let's invite up, should we invite Mary up first? She's our guest Bowron player today. It was a surprise to us, and we're very, very happy she was here. She had to shake off a little of the rust. But Mary, you are the past president of the ladies.
I am the current president.
Oh, you're the current president. Tell us about the organization. Tell us about where we are, and tell us about your musical expertise.
This is our 17th year here in this building. And where Mary Rose sat is Helen's Corner. That's a little corner that we're dedicating to Paul Foley's wife. She was a wonderful person who had great influence on our sessions. Actually, she and another friend, Kate Tybert, started the sessions, and the sessions are always in that corner, or they have been up to this particular point. Kay and I got interested in Irish music because we took the Irish language, and we attended a workshop where they had a Boron workshop. It just happened that way. So Kay and I went to Inshia, to the Kraken one year, to take Boron lessons such as they were. And later I took lessons from Mance Grady, who is well known as far as the percussion instruments are concerned. Our sessions have gone on for 15 years. In the 15th year, in December, our friend Helen, Paul's wife, passed away. And right after that, we entered the pandemic problem. So from that time on, from about January, February of that year, we have had no sessions whatsoever because we haven't been able to. Every second and fourth Sunday were the sessions. And we always had a great number of people here, all kinds of people. Helen knew so many musicians, which is really why she was probably the strongest person getting the musicians to come. She knew people from Boston because they had lived down in that area before and had many friends. And so, we had the Marshall Brothers here. Maybe you've met the Marshall Brothers in different sessions if you have attended sessions for a long time. So we usually have about 20 musicians on our Sundays. I don't know what's going to happen now. We're all chomping at the bit. Everybody wants to get back to these sessions, so we're waiting. That's the only thing that we can say now. But Irish music is very important in this pub, believe me. Everybody loves it. I love it. I think Paul loves it. We all love it. And we love hearing other musicians play here.
What do we do with a drunken sailor? What do we do with a drunken sailor? What do we do with a drunken sailor early in the morning? Hey, hey, up she rises, way hey, up she rises, hey, hey, up she rises early in the morning. Put him in a longboat till he's sober. Put him in a longboat till he's sober. Put him in a longboat till he's sober. Early in the morning. Hey, hey, up she rises. Hey, hey, up she rises. Hey, hey, up she rises. Early in the morning. Keep it in there and make 'em bail. Keep it in there and make 'em bail. Keep it in there and make 'em bail early in the morning. Way, hey, up she rises. Hey, hey, up she rises. Hey, hey, up she rises early. Oh, show it. Just shave the belly with a rusty razor. Shave the belly with a rusty razor. Shave the belly with a rusty razor. Early in the morning. Hey, hey, up she rises. Hey, hey, up she rises. Hey, hey, up she rises. Early in the morning. Captain's daughter, put him in the bed with the captain's daughter, put him in the bed with the captain's daughter, early in the morning. Hey, hey, up she rises, hey, hey, up she rises, hey, hey, up she rises, early in the morning. I said, way, hey, up she rises, way, hey, up she rises, way, hey, up she rises, early. Let's take it on home. Well, what should you do with a drunken sailor? What should you do with a drunken sailor? What should you do with a drunken sailor early in the morning? Hey, hey, now she rises. Hey, hey, now she rises. Hey, hey, now she rises early in the morning. Hey, way, hey, now she rises, hey, how she rises, hey, how she rises, there lying down long. Oh, they were hugging. Thank you so very much. Cheers.
So, if you haven't been here before, if you never came to the Irish sessions, I unfortunately, I'm ashamed to admit I haven't, but I've only been in Worcester for 4 years, and I used to head out at the Greenbrier in Boston and Brighton and then the Phoenix and Somerville and all those there. So it's in my blood, but I didn't know there was one here when I moved. We want to thank Officer Sean Lovely, who, again, helped put this together. So speaking of pipes, because he is a piper with the Worcester Police. So next, we're going to invite the Honorable. Actually, this is amazing. We were talking, and I mentioned my last name. He said, "Oh, I went to school with a Richard Barassa in Woonsocket." And that's where my parents grew up. I was born in Woonsocket. And just the thought that he actually may have known my dad when he was a teenager is a pretty amazing thing. So, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Paul Foley.
My talk today is about how the Irish came to Worcester. And the reason that they came, was to build the Blackstone Canal. That was the original idea. And the person who brought the people to Ireland, to America to do that, was a man named Tobias Boland. And before I go any further, I just want to recommend that if you are looking for more information on it, this particular book, which was written by Thomas Rooney, who was a former president of Bay State Savings Bank and a descendant of Tobias Boland, Margaret Boland, and it's a very interesting book, and it's an easy read, and you'll get an awful lot of information about the Irish coming to Worcester. But Tobias Boland came from Tipperary, Ireland. He was born in Tipperary in 1795, and he emigrated to the United States in the early 1800s. And he was working initially on the Erie Canal up in New York, which, if you studied history at all in the junior years in school, that was always the biggest thing going. But that's where he met up with Benjamin Wright. And Benjamin Wright was the engineer for the canal. And the two of them became a team. And Tobias's strengths were he could get along with people, he could manage people, he could get things organized. He had that ability. And he had the Irish come over from Ireland, and they were coming over by the hundreds and the thousands at that time, and they had nothing to do. They had no particular skills. And so working on the canal was a way to make money and to have their families and so forth. And so he was hired by the Worcester crowd, who were part of the Blackstone Canal Corporation. And his function was to build the canal southbound from Worcester towards Providence. And then there was another group that was building the canal from Providence north, and they were going to meet somewhere down in Blackstone or Woonsocket. So he brought the Irish in, and they were not allowed to settle in the town of Worcester itself because it was primarily an English colony, and they did not want papists in there, so they forced the Irish to live out on an area which is pretty much now all of around Shrewsbury Street. And they built the canal in a couple of years. It didn't take very long. And after that was finished, there was a lot of pressure in because now the people in Boston were going to lose the traffic that was coming from Worcester was going to go down through Providence, and they wanted it to come through Boston. So they wanted a railroad built, and the railroads were in the various early days in the 1830s. So Tobias got the contract to build the canal east from Worcester down towards Boston, but they had to get down, and for those of you who are really familiar with Worcester, the ridge that runs along Quinsigamon Lake was almost impassable, and it was very hard on teams of horses and oxen to carry anything over the ridge to get it into Worcester and vice versa. So they had to blast their way through the ridge and create a route. They also had to get around Lake Quinsigamon, and it was quite a feat for him to do that. But the thing that was so important at that point in time, they had to use black powder. There was no such thing as dynamite. And in using black powder, which is incredibly dangerous, they lost an awful lot of men who were injured or killed, and families were broken up and so forth and so on. But they went through with it, and they eventually got it completed. And after that, Tobias Boland's career took off on a grand scale. In all of that time, he spent down here in the Canal District, which is Green Street basically at the time, and his house was right next door to the building we're talking from now. His wife established a school here called St. James School, and St. James School was eventually moved to Packagug Hill. And Tobias Boland bought the property up in Packagug Hill to set up St. James School. That school evolved into Holy Cross College. That's how the college came to be. He also built the first Catholic church here in Worcester, which is right here on Temple Street, and it's where St. John's is today. And that church initially was St. James's Church. And all of the property around here was loaded with houses that were all built by the Irish for the Irish. As a matter of fact, if you go out in our parking lot and walk along, you find that it's a little bit rough and ready. And that's because there were so many housing foundations underneath that tower, which has created a few problems for us here in the building over the years. But this was the Irish community back in that day. And from there, then the Irish just mushroomed, because then all of the industry started. The steel industry started. The corset industry started. That's when my grandmother McGee worked, was in the corset mills when she was a child. And all of those things all happened. And it all happened because they built the canal and they built the railroad and they put Worcester on the map. And that's pretty much it for Tobias. His first wife, he had 4 children with his first wife, and his wife died here in Worcester. And upon her death, he moved down to Boston, and he married the sister of the Bishop of Boston, and Elizabeth Keating. And with Elizabeth Keating, then he went on to have 6 more children. And there's only that we could find, that Tom could find was one sister, and she's the second author of the book, Margaret Boland, and she's the only one that's known to be a direct relation of Tobias. So all of those children have disappeared into the fog of history. But if it hadn't been for Tobias Boland, a lot of this wouldn't be here today. A lot of Worcester wouldn't be here today. So we owe him a great deal of thanks. And then in conclusion to that, I've been working for several years on a statue of Tobias Boland. And one is going to be erected here in the new park across the street, behind the ballpark. It's going to be called the Green Street Park, I think, or something, Green Park or something to that effect. and in there will be an image, a statue of Tobias Bolin and Benjamin Wright looking through a transit down along the canal, and that'll go up in the next couple of years. So that's in a nutshell, that's the story of Tobias Bolin. And if you need any more, I really recommend that you look at that book that I showed you earlier. Thank you.
Thank you to our sponsors, Century Home Care, Emerald Meat, Callahan, Fay, and Caswell Funeral Homes, the Hibernian Cultural Center, and the City of Worcester Veteran Square Project for making the Worcester Senior Center St. Patrick's Day celebration continue virtually. Stay safe, stay hydrated, and stay connected by watching the Worcester Senior Center Stay Connected programming on Channel 192. Happy St. Patrick's Day!
Like a morning spring, in the lilt of Irish laughter, you can hear the angels sing. When Irish hearts are happy, all the world sings bright and gay. And when Irish eyes are smiling, sure to steal your heart away. Irish hearts are happy, all the world seems bright and